Welcome to The Creative Present, a show that's dedicated to expanding your creative self-expression and at the same time, getting your projects done. And I'm your host, Joshua Townsend. Going from the ordinary to the non-ordinary. And that has been at the foreground of my quest for many, many years. That's what I continually work on, is to make ordinary patterns, which we all make inherently, cannot not. And then we want to break open the pattern. It'll go through a period of chaos, and then a new pattern emerges. So we're going from a pattern to a pattern, and in between we encounter chaos. In that chaos is an openness. In that openness is an allowing, a possibility for allowing. I was speaking with someone today, and he said, don't you go through periods of anxiousness or shaky, or is it destabilizing in any way? And I thought, well, actually, no. I rather enjoy it. I embrace those moments, those opportunities. I get kind of excited, actually. And the one time that I took myself outside of a place where I felt destabilized was when I was doing a breathing or a pranayama exercise, and I went a little too long, a little too frequently, and I went outside my zone. So I had to spend about a half a day to restabilize and then take a break and then come back. But in general, I really enjoy that process. And so what I've been doing lately as I reflect on it, it's not that I consciously am doing this, is I'm looking at what do I do innately? Well, I take on breathing, right? So I work with breathing, and I break the usual or the ordinary way of breathing and make it non-ordinary. So it's still the same inhalation and exhalation, but instead of doing 6 or 10 or 12 of those per minute, I do one of those per minute. And in that one breath per minute, I move into the non-ordinary, even though I'm working with breathing. The same thing with walking. Most people walk forward. That's our habituated pattern. So I went, okay, what if I were to walk backwards? So walking backwards. And I do it for a period of time continuously, just to open up, to break a pattern, to open up perception. I work with dominant leg. Like I have a dominant leg that I tend to step up on with as the first leg I use to climb stairs or go up a curb. And so I consciously become aware that I'm using one leg, which for me was my right leg, as my dominant. So then for a while I work with just the left leg going up first. Again, it's ordinary, but I'm making it non-ordinary by how I work with it. And that is, I'm going to work with longitude and latitude. And what I mean by that is, longitude and latitude is a fancy way of saying place. So what I want to do is I want to go to a place that I've never been before. And I want to experience that place in a new and different way. And when I go to that place, I want to have an experience. And in a sense, go outside of time. So what I'm going to do for the next 40 days, and I'm going to begin on the first day of the fall equinox, or on the equinox. If you're in the southern hemisphere, it'll be your spring equinox. And I'm going to go to a longitude and a latitude, a place that I've never been before, or if I have been there before, it's as if I have never been there before, and see what I see, and notice what I notice, and then notice what I don't notice, and then notice that I don't notice what I don't notice. And really, really have the experience of the place. Because in place has a certain frequency, a certain vibration, a certain resonance, a certain history. And it's not like a green screen. It's not like I'm just projecting place onto a screen and then all of a sudden magically I go to another place. I have to be available for it in that profound way, in that deep way, in that ordinary way, in the sense of being present to it. Because if I imbue it with something, then I'm working from the imaginary. I'm working with what we would use in the entertainment industry by playing off of a green screen, right? I'm creating a place, but in that creation of the place, I need to also create the history of the place so I have a resonance with the place. So here's what I'm going to do. Every day for 40 days, I'm going to go to a different place that I have never been before. And I'm going to either predetermine it by looking at a map and putting my finger on the map and going, okay, that's where I'm going today. Or I'm going to use this app, and the app is called Randomnautic, I believe. And that app works with a random generator based in Australia someplace, and it gives you a coordinate that you can go to. And there's a lot of great information about it. And like I said, I'll have the website somewhere so you can read all about it. And then I will take that as my place to go, but I will do it without giving myself a predetermined time. So it'll be a spontaneous arising within me at any point during the day. And thankfully, I'll be traveling several days in this 40 days, and that will give me an opportunity to do it in a different environment, a different city that I'm going to fly to or drive a long distance. I talked to one of the guys who is behind the app, who created the app, and I'm going to take up his suggestion and do 5 in one day as an experiment. So I'm going to go from place to place to place that the random generator tells me to go to have my experience and to see how it layers. So this is more of like a little catch-up chat we're having today, and also asking you to really go deep on place. You know, there's an old saying that place is character and character is place. And place holds history and place has a certain resonance. We as people in a first world country in 2024, almost 2025, we seem to discount the history of place. You know, not like the indigenous people. The indigenous people held places as a certain sacred spot through years and years of repetition, centuries. The only time that I'm able to recognize that in today's culture is if something just horrible happens, something heinous, like for instance, when there's a mass shooting or something happens to a large group or small group of people where they're killed suddenly all at once, a tragedy. And then what we'll do is we'll plow down the building, right, even though the place is still there. And if it's an event that's big enough, we'll have a memorial. If it's a smaller event, then we'll just rebuild another structure. The place is still going to hold that resonance. And so I'd like to ask everyone to be aware of that as you go along your day. And I know we talked about before about just crossing thresholds, how every time you cross a threshold, meaning a doorway, there's always a shift, there's always a change. And the change doesn't just happen externally, it happens internally. And to be sensitive and aware of that. Our physiological changes, our thinking changes, our feeling changes, our breathing changes, everything changes. So embrace this time of change as we go through the equinox, which is also a time of change. And I'll see you again, or talk with you again real soon. Thank you for listening. If you love what you're listening to, please subscribe and then share with fellow creatives. For more, go to joshuatownsend.com.